Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Lynette. Today we're going to talk about what if. So many people live in the what ifs. I recently came across a meme on Facebook, and it is absolutely the truth. It said something like, living in the past brings depression. Living in the future brings anxiety, but living in the now brings peace, calm, and happiness. And that is so true. Living in the present is all we really have. In fact, I think I shared with you in the past about a friend who was so positive, and she said she prayed for a certain outcome, and it wasn't like 30 seconds later she said, "But what if?" And it was completely on the dark side, completely on the negative side. And I had told her, you can't walk in faith and believe for a positive outcome and live in the world of what ifs, because what if? Anything can happen in the what ifs. We can deal with reality, good, bad, or indifferent. We can somehow survive it. But you can't survive what ifs. You don't even know how to act with what ifs. What ifs have got to be taken out of your vocabulary. Unless you can put the spin on it, what if everything turned out great? I've had that said also. It's like when I've been apprehensive about doing something, I would say to myself, what if it worked out really well? And in that case, that's a whole different spin on those two words, what if. Because that is living more in the positive mode of things. In fact, I was watching a talk show the other day, and there was a celebrity on there, and they were talking about how they live in the present moment. And he said, if you don't live in the present moment, you're going to miss out on things. And I started thinking about it. That is absolutely the truth. If your mind is on yesterday or tomorrow, you aren't living in what's going on right here in front of you. And I know it's easier said than done. I know sometimes I have to reel myself in constantly. Sometimes it's difficult to stay focused and stay right in the present moment, but it certainly is a goal worth striving for. With everything that we've talked about, achieving your goals, working towards your goals, being your best, being positive, by staying focused in the present will make you that much better of the person that you were meant to be, more focused. And when you do go after your goals, when you do meet with that person for a job interview or whatever it is, they can sense that you're a focused person, that you're in the now. Those are the kind of people that I know companies want. But aside from that, aside from what the company wants, it would bring you peace of mind, and it would make your interaction with others. Not only would they appreciate more that you're listening to them, that you're engaging with them, that you're being proactive with them, but you yourself would enjoy what you're doing with whoever you're with right at that moment, or what you're doing in terms of a project, or what you're doing in general, and your thoughts being on the absolute present moment. There's no room for depression. There's no room for frustration, because in the present moment, there's always hope. There's always happiness. And whatever you're doing, whatever you're saying, is to move forward. Eliminating the words what if from your vocabulary, from your life, gives you hope. It's walking in faith. And I know I've shared with you multiple times about what I'm going through in terms of mobility. Now, if I lived in a world of what if, I may as well go bury my head in the sand, because if there was no hope, it's like, what's the point? But because I believe it doesn't matter what anyone says, it doesn't matter of a diagnosis, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. If you believe for a positive outcome, that is the bottom line. That is all that matters. And that is what's going to take us far, is believing and focusing and staying in the present moment, looking forward in terms of the things that are going on, whether it be your health or whatever it is, whether it be your career, your relationship. You got to stay focused in the present. You got to stay focused in pursuing that you're moving forward with it, that the outcome is going to be good. We don't have room for what ifs. We don't have room for negativity. There is no problem too big for God. There is no problem. And if you walk in that faith, I hate to use this term, but sky is the limit. Anything is possible. And how exciting to walk in a world where you know that anything is possible. You can achieve anything that you want to. You can be anything that you want to be. And the outcome is going to be good. We have the choice. We can either look at the dark side or we can look at the light side. I mean, that's basically the two choices we have. So don't you want to live in happiness, positivity, walking forward, knowing that your life is going to blossom? Or would you want to be one of those people that always look at the dark side, that say nothing ever works out for them? So you have the choice. And to me, the choice is simple. Walk in positivity. Walk in knowing everything works out. And when something comes to your mind that's a negative, for example, something minor, and this happens a lot because we live in this world, if somebody says something that affects you, it might take you down for a minute. Let me go back because this takes me to another area. It's like we can walk in positivity. We can walk in faith. We can walk knowing everything is going to work out. But sometimes to do that, you almost have to be in a bubble. Because once we step out our front door, we have all sorts of opinions, all sorts of things going on. And maybe we can shake off one at a time, but when you're hit from all sides, I know it's difficult as human beings to remain in that positive mode. So what you need to do is when you get home, you need to recharge your walk. You need to get focused, sit down, relax, meditate. And the interesting thing about meditation is that no matter what's bothering you, we'll just take, for example, somebody said something that hurt your feelings or didn't resonate correctly with you. When you meditate, you get the answer, and it's usually an answer that you never thought of. In fact, sometimes when people say or do things, we think it's because of this, or they don't like us, or they're mad. And the funny thing about that is, it's usually none of those things. It usually has nothing to do with us. But that's the kind of answer that you get when you meditate. So in the evening, when you get home, it is important to take a little bit of time for yourself. Recharge, regroup, and get back in that positive mode so that you're walking in it daily. I know all we talk about is a lot to remember if you try to absorb it all at once. And I recommend writing down the step-by-step process and each day or each week apply a new approach to life in terms of walking in confidence, walking in faith, staying in the present moment. All these things that you need to develop to be who you are, to be your lifestyle. And they don't happen overnight. I know that. And it's like a diet. If you try to do everything at once, you won't stick to it. It's too difficult to try to do too much at once. I would write down the steps to becoming your best self, to becoming the person that you want to be, to becoming a positive, happy person, successful person, happy person. and take one thing at a time and have it become part of who you are, part of your personality. And eventually, not even eventually, you will become that person. And I am so excited for all of you to develop that, because I know we live in a world that can, if you let it, beat you down. And if you look at things from a negative or a tweaked position, you can start to see everything in the wrong way. So let's turn our thoughts around. Remember that meme that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode? It put it in very simple words, and this is really the bottom line. If we live in the past, it creates depression. If we live in the future, it creates anxiety. If we live in the present, we get the most out of life. We get the happiness. We get the calm. We are present in who we are. And the reason all these things happen is because for some reason, when we sit there and reflect on the past, oftentimes it's very negative things, very hurtful things. I know when I used to allow myself to do that, I would sit there and think of something to the past, and I could actually bring tears to my eyes just in my own thoughts. So how healthy can that be? How good can that be for you? I would say not at all. And then looking too far into the future, creating anxiety, you would think, oh my gosh, what about when I retire? Will I have enough money? Will this, will that? Instead of living it and taking it as it comes, that would be anxiety provoking if you're going to live in the what ifs, because the future is filled with what ifs. I mean, that's what the future is all about. And as I mentioned earlier, we can't deal with the what ifs. We can only deal with the reality of what's happening right now. And that brings me to the third point. The people that you're with, you're listening to them more. And they can sense it, they can feel it, they appreciate it. And if you're working on a project, then you're fully engaged in that project. Your mind is on it. There's no time for frustration, anxiety, depression, because your mind is focused on what you're doing. So let's choose to be present. And as I said, it takes some work. It takes constantly reeling yourself back in. It sounds easier said than done, I realize that. But it's worth the time and effort. So let's be present and enjoy our life and walk in the reality of what is. And it's so exciting to let life unfold instead of always worrying about the future. Just see what today brings. It's very exciting. One thing I wanted to go over with you, if any of you have any questions or any subject that you would like to discuss, I'm going to give you one of my email addresses, and that is LARM111253@icloud.com. And if there's a subject you would like to talk about, or if you just want a question answered, please feel free to email me. With that being said, on that note, I will close for now. I wish you all a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.